I have one depressed Dior here with more Langrisser Mobile Apex. Um, so as far as updates for the week, my Lycoris should hit 6 stars next Saturday. So that'll be nice to finally get that over with. It's actually a really big transition from 5 to 6 for her because her terrain effects will last an additional turn, which is pretty huge. My Rosalia is now 4 stars, and looking back on some of the replays that I obviously recorded, I realized I wasn't using Heaven's Guards, which originally I've always been so used to using flyers because I didn't have very much cavalry, and I used to not work cavalry troops, but ever since I got characters like Yulia, I actually started working on them because of unicorns. So Heaven's Guards actually have a bit more attack power compared to the I don't remember the soldier type I was using before, but so I swapped her over to that to see if it'll do a bit better. Now the only disadvantage, of course, is cavalry doesn't do well against spears, but I don't run into that many spears. Anyway, so I think that was the only update. I'm still working on stars for Rosalia, Lycoris, and Arian Rod. Anyway, that should be, yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the box. So Gwendy here has 4 healers, it looks like. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 healers and a D-lit, standard stuff there. Good amount of AoE. Standard tanks as usual. So I would say probably this is an average box. It has a little bit of everything. Obviously the big things here is of course the Juggler, the Ares, and the Leonhardt. The Angelina of course can be Danger as well as Listel, but I'm most concerned about those particular 3. They actually opened by banning my Estelle. So I was like, okay, whatever. I picked my usual tank. I banned their Juggler. They banned some of my faction buffers. And I banned their... I haven't banned anything yet, but they picked their other tank. Which was great for me, because that means I can focus on their AoE. So I got rid of Leonhardt and Ares. I was a bit concerned, because obviously that leaves Angelina and Listel. But I figured those 2 are the most difficult to deal with. Listel's a problem. Angelina, I at least know how she kind of works. I picked my Angelina. I was a bit concerned because I didn't have very much in the form of buffing options at the moment. I either have to take D-lit or Sophia. And they actually banned my Sophia. They are probably aware of the exclusive item at this point, and they banned my other faction buffer. They take a Rachel, which is fine. I went ahead and banned the rest of their dangerous AoE. And I take D-lit, so now I have Gossable for Angelina there. They ban some of my high mobility. They actually take a D-lit. I went ahead and banned... I didn't want to deal with Attack Blessing or the after combat heals of Tiaras, so I got rid of that. Got rid of Yulia, because the Yulia is Yulia. And I actually take Tiaras, just... once she can be faction buffed, and then I can use Attack Blessing to kind of buff up any of my... to go for any all or nothing attacks. Went ahead and banned the last of my mobility, which is fine. They actually took a Iris. And so I went ahead and banned pretty much the 2 remaining threats. All that remained was Liana, which really, the extra action is not going to be that bad. I mean, they only have 1 AoE'er. I can tank the 1 AoE that she'll spit out. And Deela can be a little bit dangerous because she's magic and she's technically infantry as well. Elwyn is never really a problem right now until he gets his SP class, so it's not a huge deal. So I went ahead and take Young Jessica. Mainly because I could faction buff everyone with Freya except for Angelina, and she could be Gospeled, so that gives me my buff coverage. As for our setup, nothing too special, and Young Jessica set up for single target. I was kind of thinking about giving her a area heal because I was a bit concerned about possibly dealing with Runic Void, but honestly, I was like, whatever. That's pretty much what I was like, whatever, I'll just take it. But I did take mass heal over I don't remember the spell. I don't remember the spell's name. The other spell that does healing and a buff, but I went ahead and just took mass heal just in case I did get hit by the Runic Void. Then I could just dispel some of the dots and counter the damage. D-Light I have of course set up for Gospel and then the rest is standard. And Freya I actually wanted the faction buff and went pretty much physical tank, which was one thing I was a little concerned about because obviously D-Light is magic, so I can't guard against it. Same thing for Rachel, but honestly I was like I was planning on trying to kill these before they reach me anyway. And then Angelina of course is standard. Our opponents, Rachel's all about the AoEs with the 3 cost. Iris here is a standard healing Iris with no self-teleport, but has the other teleport. Landius is Landius. Elwyn is Elwyn, with a faction buff for self-buffing. And this D-Light, of course, is the same as mine for the most part. Stat-wise... 8%... Okay, so she's 6 stars just like me. Slightly higher stats. In fact, her troops are actually stronger than mine. Wow, these are pretty beefy troops. Not bad. So I went ahead and moved up, went into siege mode. It's a bit early, but I usually do it ahead of time just so I can measure things out. Move up to go ahead and faction buff. Really, I'm just kind of seeing how he moves before, or how she moves before I move into counter. One thing I did measure out was how far Elwyn can move. Elwyn has 4 movement, and then the teleport Iris can provide is an additional 4 movement and allows negate terrain. So I was definitely a bit concerned about Elwyn getting in my face. Anyway, I went ahead and got Attack Blessing up on Angelina, which usually kind of telegraphs that, hey, I'm about to do something with her. So at this point, I can actually get, obviously as a flyer I have 5 movement, an additional 2 thanks to Tidal Surge will get me to here. Is that right? Yeah, I can get to here, and I can do a 3 AoE here, so I'm not really in range yet. Oh, actually, sorry. I can go 5 here, then go 2 here, and then I can do a 3 here, a 3 span AoE here. So right now I can actually do what I need to do. The Landius does have his 3 cost skill, which makes it so he can't be displaced, and right now he faction buffed, he has not guarded yet. So if I move him anywhere that's not adjacent to him, I can attack freely. So I was like, alright, well I'll get set up then, get Gospel up. And then she actually did a teleport with the tank all the way to here. So with this setup here, I actually can't get in. I can't hit 3 targets with this setup now, which is kind of nice, or kind of good for her. The one key mistake here was mainly the teleporting her to here. I think was the biggest mistake, because, like I mentioned before, his guard is not up right now, which means his guard range is just these 4 squares. So anyone that's not in those 4 squares is fair game, which is his entire army. So with that, I went ahead and just got into position. I was safe. Deal went there. Alright, so at this point, if we look at the danger zone, even though I repositioned down here, I still can't get into a position where I can hit 3 targets with Breath of the Tides. And then for Young Jessica, I could pass turn and then move again and get to here, and then I have a range of 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I'm out of range with Young Jessica. So that just leaves D-Light here. So D-Light can move 3. If she ends her turn without attacking while in hostile territory, she can move another 3 and immediately go straight for this Elwyn. So that's what I do. I do Seer Miracles just for some extra buffing. And the cycle cooldowns as well. And I go straight for gold to kill him. So, cavalry troops, magic, it just shreds him. So, remember his D-Light is stronger than mine, and actually goes straight for my my Angelina here. My Angelina, of course, has last rights, so this gets reduced by like 50% or something. Also, I have my Angelina actually built a little tankier than probably what an assassin... I mean, I kind of use her as an assassin, but I do have her chance set up as kind of like a bruiser type. So her defense and med defense is actually a bit higher than probably normal, but in exchange I kind of have... I don't have high crit. I don't have an increased crit or crit damage, which sometimes bites me in the butt. But this trade-off worked out for me because I, of course, had last rights. And now this D-Light's out of position, no faction buffs. And conveniently, I could fast turn with this, get the extra act, and then 2 movement, and move right into here. Fireball does extra damage against infantry, which deletes infantry, so that's more than enough to kill. So, this Rachel's finally going to get a kill. Fire. Same actually, I think she did a normal attack. Yeah, she doesn't have single target ability. So I do Tidal Surge. I do have Angelina's exclusive item, so buffs don't cycle if I use an act again, though it does have a cooldown. So I just went ahead and just moved into position and went for the kill. It was just a regular attack, but I had attack blessing, and the and of course the Ragnarok would ensure that I reduced the sorceress's full hit point buff. So it's a 3-on-2. I definitely have won the exchange at this point. His Landius cannot beat my Freya. It's just not possible, and that Iris by herself is not going to do enough magic damage to deal with my Freya. So I went ahead, I took advantage of the fact that Gwynthi only has 2 units, so I was just going to go ahead and get buffed and force her to take all of her actions first. So yeah, not enough. She took more damage from just the straight dot damage from Freya's items. Went ahead and attacked with Freya first just to soften him up. I probably didn't need to do this. I probably could have did it in the other order, but I'm always concerned about Landius having thorns and things like that, so went ahead and moved up. Everything's out of range. Landius can't reach anybody, so I could kind of just freely attack from here. And at this point, she gave up. I would have just siege tanked Landius down, and then that would have been it. So yeah, that's 1 down. I still gonna keep trying to get to gold 3. Alright, some more matches. So fortunately I did run into a bunch of losses and losing streaks. I haven't D-ranked thankfully, but I've come up short of hitting gold 3 unfortunately. Usually some of it was my mistakes and stuff. One of the issues I'm running into is D-lit, since the hammer I have on her is just the gate of truth, which is designed for offense. It's not really helpful for healing. Her ability to be a kind of a backup healer is kind of limited. Well, she can't be a primary healer because I don't have the hammer that actually heals other people. So that was one of the issues. Also, I completely screwed up one battle where I could have used Rosalia to get a clear kill, but I'm so used to relying on faction buffs that I keep forgetting that, you know, Rosalia has freaking chivalry. Anyway, let's go over this fight. So the neat thing about this fight is there's a Naomi. I believe this Naomi's 5 stars. She's not 6 stars yet. At least when I checked. I had to go look up her stats just to figure out if she was 5 stars or 6 stars. A little bit of AoE, some single target, some assassins, a little bit of everything, so it's not too out of the ordinary. No TRS. Looks like they have 4 healers and a D-lit, so they're pretty set for healers, and they had 3 tanks. So overall, not too bad. It's kind of healer and tank heavy, to be honest. So there's not much I have to really worry about. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue. Oh yeah, this fight is also interesting because they banned my Freya. So this is another fight where I actually use Estelle, which I'm completely okay with because this box doesn't really have much as far as mobility is concerned. Yeah, like no flyers. The only cavalry is Landius. So yeah, took Estelle. I of course I banned Rian and Joshua, so I didn't have to deal with all that nonsense. Then I banned, of course, their other assassin and Lestelle. I'm kind of surprised that he opened with, or she opened with Bozel. Besides that, took out one of my healers and one of my faction buffers. I think I ended up having to take a healer pretty early in this one. Yeah, I went and grabbed TRS just to make sure I have that locked in. After losing a match because I only had D-lit as a healer, I decided to be a bit smarter about that. I could have maybe still won that particular fight, but I definitely played not the best. Anyway, Naomi got picked, which is why I said this was kind of interesting. The big thing about to be concerned about Naomi is her 3-cost skill can expand her range to 4. I don't think it expands. I'm not sure if it expands her skills, but it definitely expands her normal attack. I'm pretty sure it expands her skills too. So she can definitely snipe you pretty hard if you let her get out of control. She also puts a passive buff on everybody on the first turn of after her first action, and she also puts that same buff again if she ends up dying. And that buff it's not really useful if you're at full hit points, but if you're at lower HP, it actually gives you like a 40% damage reduction, which is pretty neat. Anyway, went ahead and got rid of Wyler because I hate him, and got rid of Yusuke because he's pretty annoying too. Got my Angelina. Got rid of my other faction buffer, got rid of young Jessica. They went ahead and picked their healer finally. Went ahead and banned D-Lit. I didn't want to deal with a second tank, so I got rid of Ledin. I was completely fine with them having 2 healers. And they pretty much banned everything. They actually left me with Rosalia and Lycoris. And then, of course, they also let me have freaking Lustriel, which she's pretty good on this map, since she can just go along the mountains up top. There's also a few mountains on the bottom as well you can follow along. Anyway, there's a Leona here, so they have an act again. And I went ahead and grabbed Rosalia. As mentioned in the previous fight, she is now 4 stars, and I use cavalry on her. Let's go ahead and get Danger Zone up, and all that up. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with us first. So standard kit for Rosalia. As I mentioned, I'm now using Heaven's Guard, which are a bit beefier. Also, the additional attack, 45% attack when you move 3 spaces, is pretty amazing. And then, of course, we got Lustriel. I went with Gargoyles. Since there was a lot of casters, I went ahead and swapped in a melee unit. I really need to get bone dinos for her, because I think that'll be a lot better for her for if she wants to ever go melee. But key thing here is now I'm using Onrush, so I can take advantage of the melee. Tiaras is standard, offense build. Estelle is my usual setup, Phoenix Wave, Whirlwind, Enduring Hope. And Angelina is normal. Anyway, Bozel, all debuffs all the time. Naomi, 3-cost skill with Fireball and Ice Lance. So Fireball is just a standard spell. Ice Lance is one of her unique spells. What it does is it's essentially just like the Ice single target spell. It does extra damage to Lancers, but also it will place ice terrain right beneath them, which will also reduce mobility, which is pretty cool. Nothing too special about Leona. Has Gospel, that's about it. Yeah, I guess that's a key thing here. The big issue with Naomi is she has really horrible factions. I think she has like Glory and that latest faction that Ares is part of. So she has terrible faction choices, so more than likely she'll probably get Gospel or something. Bozel has no faction buff. Landius will buff himself. And Sophia, well, actually, Sophia's exclusive item will buff everybody if necessary, so it's not that big of a deal. Anyway, went ahead and got Enduring Hope up and running. This, of course, gives me +1 mobility. So key thing here is, of course, he opened with a faction buff, which means he only has 1 guard range. Not that that matters, because my Lustriel can pretty much attack anything as long as she's in grasslands, mountains, or forest. I went ahead and went Attack Blessing on Angelina, because she doesn't actually have any fancy attacks that buff up her attacks. And I had already measured out the distance. With a +1 mobility, I can get to here with her what's it called? Tidal Surge. So getting to here, I can hit up to 4 targets. I can also go all the way to here and hit 4 targets here as well. Landius does have this 3-cost skill, so he won't be pushed around. My key target here was going to be go after the Bozel and the Naomi, because they're the only things that can really do anything to me. So yeah, since I had everything measured out, I went ahead and got my necessary prep. The Lestra, even with the +1 movement, she's just not going to get in range, unfortunately, for this round. But yeah, you can see going along the mountains gives her rather expanded range. Hitting everything here. It's going to push back the Liana and Bozel. I'm going to go ahead and finish off Bozel. I could have gone for Liana, but Bozel, if I did not take out Bozel, he would sleep me, and then that'll be it for Angelina. So here's that expanded range that I've been using Ice Lance. Even the troops attack, but since I had Last Rites active, I don't think that's why Last Rites kept her alive. We'll keep it that way. I always keep thinking Last Rites only works on physical damage, but I believe it works on everything. Anyway, I attacked from mountains here, so Illustrial's exclusive helmet made it so I bypass guard, and I used Onrush so I can attack in melee, and just completely wiped out Naomi. These fancy little cloak things, they, like I mentioned before, reduce damage by 40% if you're below 80% health. She was not at, I don't think she was at 80% health, so I just took her out completely. Anyway, that pretty much just leaves the Landius. Which of course takes out my my Angelina. So I went ahead and took advantage of this opening. Set up the sword here. I did screw up here. Well, no, never mind. I didn't mess it up. Now, Sophia was at full hit points, so Shrine Maidens did proc, which was just enough to keep her alive. But that's okay. With the move again I got afterwards, I was able to stay out of Landius' range. So yeah, as you can see, also the roundabout allowed Illustrial to get out of range as well. So I was pretty safe here. Now I just need to get everyone else caught up. So I use Whirlwind Staff just so I can move 2 more spaces and make sure I can cover Illustrial. Go ahead and just use this as an opportunity to go ahead and get everyone buffed up. Alright, so Landius' guard is up, but I can safely move up. And since Landius moved down, I didn't have to worry about protecting Illustrial. Yeah. Magic, but it's Shrine Maiden, it's not going to really do much. But since she moved closer, I was able to just move in, do Emerald Crusher, and now I'm still in guard range because my Estelle has done damage. So I can just safely stay there. More magic damage is just not enough. Go ahead, this is just a regular attack, so it's not going to do too much. I still have Chivalry active, so I got a little bit out of it. And then I went ahead and just moved in to go ahead and heal up. It's right now 4v2. I have swords set, and yeah, my opponent just gave up at that point. But got to see a little bit of Naomi. Unfortunately, I had excessive mobility, and my opponent didn't really have. Once I got the AOE off, it just the entire formation just fell apart. All right, so like I mentioned before, I had a bit of a losing streak, so I was trying to at least try to end my Saturday on a high note. I was kind of already tilted just from, not necessarily from the PvP itself, but Friday one of the challenge events got unlocked, and anyone that's familiar with the game knows what challenge got unlocked, and it involved a lot of goblins exploding and things like that, which pretty much the summary for that particular challenge was if you have juggler builds, you're good to go, and you're just going to have a 20+ minute fight as you watch everything explode and kill themselves. But if you don't have a built juggler or don't use juggler, it becomes an RNG fest that's very, very frustrating and costs a lot of time per attempt. Thankfully, I actually managed to beat it, which was at least somewhat satisfying. Anyway, so like I said, I got a bit tilted just from that, and I was still recovering from all that. It was my week was already long enough as is, and I really did not need that event. Anyway, the reason I do them, of course, is because I need the controllers, because I always need more exclusive items. Anyway, as far as our opponent's concerned, decent number of assassins. Not too much AoE. Really, there's a decent number of AoE. It's just a mixture of physical and magic in this case. You got Joshua for the physical, then you got, of course, Mystery Knight, Lana, which we don't see Lana that often, and of course Bozal. And then there's a couple of assassins, and then some other annoyances here and there. So it's a little bit of everything. They did ban my Estelle first, which I don't really care because I always pick Freya above Estelle if I'm given the choice. So there you go. There's my Freya. Went ahead and banned my assassin and went straight for young Jessica of all things. So I was like, okay. The only assumption I have for them picking young Jessica is to try to whittle down my healers, because I technically have a ton of passive healers. As for who I banned next, I was definitely torn. I generally want to get rid of Zerida as quickly as possible, but Omega is a big problem, and Mystery Knight's always an issue if you let her run around. So I'd rather have to deal with a Zerida than anything else. And there's of course Lestelle as well to deal with. Joshua, there's just so many to choose from, so I really had to kind of just pick who I absolutely did not want to deal with. A lot of times if I have the opportunity to second pick Angelina, I usually take it. Sometimes I do Clarette, but honestly I think Angelina is I tend to get a better win ratio with Angelina just simply because that AoE is so useful. So got rid of some of my faction buffers as well as another one of my healers. They took a Rachel, so I was like, okay, whatever. And I went ahead and took care of the rest of their assassins, which was perfect for me. One thing that definitely stood out about this formation is only 2 healers, or 2 primary healers. Obviously Rachel has passive healing as well as Yulia. So I was definitely considering just getting rid of the healers. But if I did that, then that would just open the door for for her to grab everything else, and I'd rather them have a healer than deal with most of the stuff that's here. So grabbed my TRS. They banned my D-Lit and Rosalia, which is fine. My Rosalia is only 4 stars. They took an Elwyn, which is always spears nowadays. Went ahead and got rid of Yulia and Lestelle. I really want to get rid of their TRS, but it's just I need to get rid of those other things first. They left me with Luna, so I went ahead and grabbed her. I really need to grab her more often when I have the opportunity, because I mean, having a princess faction buff is always useful, but also just she does have a lot of range and coverage if you let her, shoot things. Anyway, as far as what they left me with Sophia and Sri Lanka, sorry. And my Sri Lanka has no buffs. I don't have a gospel, I don't have a faction buff, so... And if I pick Sophia, I wouldn't be able to pick the other. They did take Bozal. So at this point, I banned their healers. I was like, okay, you're not going to take a healer, I'll just ban your healers. And I took a Sri Lanka. Even though she doesn't have a faction buff, I figured if she could just attack directly, generals directly, I figured that would be good enough. So, here's our opponents. We got Rachel here. Single targets with Runic Void. Standard Landius. Actually, sorry, not Standard Landius. This Landius has a Tranquility. Does not have 3-cost ability, so he actually can get pushed around. I don't know if this person did that on purpose, just so the guard can get pushed with everybody else when I use Angelina's AoE. It's not going to help, but it's the only thing I can think of. Bozal, all AoEs with some faction buff. Main reason, of course, to get the faction buff is so he can buff Lana. And Lana is 3-cost single target. Free strike, of course, will do tons of damage to Freya, because Freya has spears. And then AoE with Black Hole. And then Elwyn is standard faction buff Elwyn. TRS, I actually went with Mass Heal just in case I need to remove some debuffs or counteract some of the AoE damage. Luna here is, of course, standard. Move again when God and faction buff. Angelina is normal. Sri Lanka is the same build as I always do. So teleport with both for primary attacks. And then Freya, I actually went ahead and grabbed Iron Rose, mainly just to get a little bit of magic guard. I'd rather have Freya get killed over any of my other characters that can actually kill things. So I'm kind of okay with Freya getting picked off. So I measured out the steps for Lana and Elwyn. So where Freya's standing is pretty much the safest spot you can be. I opened with Wind God Realm. I really didn't need to. I should have actually waited. So the reason why I did it was mainly just to give more mobility for Sholinka, but she didn't really need it. So I should have just went straight for Queen's Ascension and then just save the Wind God Realm for later, because that extra 3 steps could give me a lot of mobility. But as far as my coverage right now, so with Teleport I would get an extra 2 movement, so Sholinka would have 6 movement, and I can have 2 range on my attack. Since these 2 are adjacent, I can bypass guard and attack the general, the hero directly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So literally, if I can teleport, I can literally just teleport here, and I'd be able to get all the coverage I needed. So I didn't need this. I didn't need this God Realm thing. So I went ahead and moved up. I went ahead and moved up a little bit closer and to take advantage of the Wind God Realm, because I wasn't sure who I wanted to kill. Obviously, the only target I have right now is Bozil, even with Wind God Realm. So, but I wasn't sure how everyone else was going to move, if anything. But it looks like my only target is going to be either Bozil or possibly Elwyn, depending on where Elwyn goes. So he buffs himself. And I go ahead and put Attack Blessing on Sholinka. Sholinka, like I mentioned before, doesn't have a faction buff, but thanks to Tiaras' hat, I actually got her an attack buff. She didn't really need it, but it's nice to have. So, Lana moves up, and I went ahead and just use either go for Elwyn or go for Bozil. I'd rather get rid of the Bozil. Go. Now the thing I wasn't entirely certain about, I actually took a while to, obviously I got to move an extra 2 steps after I did my attack, and I actually was figuring out where exactly I wanted to move, because the key thing here is I wanted to keep the formation close, so I can take advantage of the Breath of the Tides and hit 3 targets. So I ended up just falling back. I was kind of considering going up, or maybe just staying in place, but I wasn't exactly sure who was going to move in to attack the. Obviously, they were going to try to kill Sholinka and get that started. So it actually worked out really in my favor because Lana was the one that moved up. So with that, I was able to just move up and then shoot everything. This is when I realized Langrisser didn't have his 3-cost skill because it moved him. It didn't really matter because he got frozen, and then I went straight for the Rachel. The random debuff was not attack, so I was pretty safe for getting the kill in this case. And since everything else was out of position, I went ahead and moved everyone, spread them out because Lana was going to go first, and I didn't want to get AoE'd. At this point, I'm kind of out of position. There's not really much I can do. Sholinka's still stunned. I have guard on Sholinka. I have physical guard on Sholinka. I don't have any magic guard, and if I move Freya right now, it'll actually remove his physical guard. Obviously, the Elwyn's going to be a bit of a danger, but he is flyers and spears, so he doesn't actually have any type advantage against Freya. My Angelina has almost no faction buff left, and all of her stuff is on cooldown, so she's not really in any position to do anything, and Langrisser has his guard up. I can get some shots off with Luna, but I was a bit concerned about getting single targeted by Lana, because I went with Demon Hunters instead of, what was it? I don't remember the other type. I think it was Sharpshooters or Bounty Hunters. I don't remember what they're called. Anyway, and then I needed to keep Tiaras away just to make sure I don't get accidentally silenced. So I went ahead and just shot at Langrisser. They don't have any healers left. Lana and Elwyn can self-heal, but there's no one to heal their tank. So I went ahead and just shot at. I was trying to get the debuff to proc, but it didn't. There's only a 1 in 4 chance it would, not proc. Anyways, surprisingly survived the magic attack. That was pretty impressive. I believe those skeletons actually get damage reduction if they get attacked by anything that's not demon or holy. So I went ahead and moved in with Freya. I was hoping to get a kill off on Landius to get his resurrection proc, but it didn't. But I got myself at least in a position where I can guard everything. So Elwyn's going to go ahead and shut down my my healing, which kind of sucks, but like I said, Freya's just there to kind of soak hits, and that's exactly what she's doing right now. Did a lot of fixed damage, but unfortunately Elwyn could self-heal. I went ahead and used Tiaras to go ahead and proc this kill, because I only needed to do 400 damage, which is easy enough to do. So I went ahead and used this opportunity to go ahead and get the kill with Angelina, which also got rid of all my troops. So Lonely Moon procced, so I got to get an extra action, so I got to move her away. I mainly moved her away. I could have went straight for Lana, but I wasn't confident that I would be able to get the kill with just Angelina, even with the Ragnarok. I think I might have been able to get the kill. As you can see, Angelina's attack is pretty high, even with no faction buff. But I wasn't confident. If it had failed, Lana could have AoE'd everyone together with a Dark Hole, and that could have made things very difficult. Anyway, beyond that, obviously Freya got killed, but Lana actually was targeting Sherlinka, but since I had her Freya adjacent and I had Iron Rose, I was able to guard the magic, and so Freya took the hit and got killed. So I went ahead and shot at Elwyn. He's got flyers, troops, so I do extra damage to those and just finish him off. So at this point I have control of the match. Went ahead and just used this opportunity to go ahead and remove the debuff and heal up. And just finish things off with this. So there you go. So yeah, I think that'll be it for right now. I'm just kind of recording these as I go so I don't forget anything. As you can see, I'm at 1540 right now. My win percentage is 50%, which is enough to get you to gold depending on where your win streaks are. Unfortunately, I had a series of losses that really hurt me. In Faith, in fact, was a season 1, one of the season 1 finalists. No, not finalist. He was a season 1 Langrisser, I think. Langrisser rank. Or maybe he was a finalist, I don't remember. Anyway, he had that fancy banner. But yeah, pretty standard stuff. I need 2 wins in a row to get to gold. Usually I'll probably get 1 more win and then I get screwed over somehow. Like I get the stupid sky map or something, which is what I got for my last few battles. Which I really hate. I also had a battle where literally all their breeze procced every action, which pretty much killed me because that extra 2 mobility for all their troops, I couldn't do anything about it. Especially when you're on the sky map where you're just completely trapped unless you have flyers. So it was a bit messy. Anyway, just to kind of talk about the challenge mission that I was tilted about. It's in here somewhere. Yeah, it was the not Marine, was it? No, it was the Energy Burst 10K group. That one was not fun to deal with. Hopefully I can get this last one. It's not a big deal if I don't. I have plenty of controllers right now. I have enough for 3 items, which is pretty good. Anyway, I'll go ahead and call it here. I am the Depressed Dior. This was Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 5, I think. Anyway, see you guys next time.